Have you ever felt pulled toward a place you couldn't explain? I mean, a deep, quiet calling that makes no logical sense. It's a feeling that starts in your gut and slowly works its way into your thoughts. This isn't about wanderlust or seeing a beautiful photo on social media. This is something else entirely. It's a whisper from your soul, telling you there's somewhere you need to be. A destination that holds a piece of you that you haven't even met yet. This is a story about that kind of pull. It's about a journey that started not with a plan, but with a persistent, unshakable vision. I followed that vision. I chose to listen to that inner voice instead of the noise of doubt around me. What happened next was unreal. It was more than a vacation. It was a confirmation. A validation that there are forces at play we don't always understand. This experience completely changed the way I see travel forever. It taught me that sometimes the most important journeys are the ones we don't choose for ourselves. They are the ones that choose us. They are the ones that call to us in our dreams and wait patiently for us to answer. This is the story of how I answered that call. This journey wasn't about escaping my life. It was about stepping more fully into it. It was about trusting that there was a reason for the images I kept seeing in my mind. A reason for the feeling of familiarity with a place I had never been. It was a test of faith in my own intuition. I learned that our inner guidance system is the most powerful compass we will ever own. It points us not just to places on a map, but to moments of profound self-discovery. It leads us exactly where we need to go at exactly the right time. So, I invite you to come with me on this adventure. Let go of what you think you know about planning a trip. Open your heart to the possibility that some travel is destined. This journey challenged everything I thought I knew about logic and reason. It showed me that the most magical experiences are often waiting for us just beyond the edge of our comfort zone. This story is a testament to the power of listening to that quiet, internal nudge. It's about the incredible things that can happen when we have the courage to follow it. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to The Travel Psychic. If you are new here, I am so glad you found your way to this space. This is a community where intuition meets travel. We believe that journeys are not just about the places we visit, but about purpose, timing, listening to our inner guidance. We explore the idea that every trip has the potential to be a sacred pilgrimage if we allow it to be. Here, we don't just talk about destinations, we talk about destiny. We share stories that remind us of the magic that unfolds when we trust the journey. Today's story is deeply personal. It is one of the most significant experiences of my life, and I feel called to share it with you now. It's a story about listening to a persistent vision that I simply could not ignore. It's about following a pull toward the unknown that I didn't fully understand at the time. I traveled to a place that felt more like a memory than a new discovery. And in the end, that journey changed absolutely everything for me. It unlocked a new level of understanding about myself and my place in the world. This experience taught me that our intuition is always speaking to us. It often comes as a quiet whisper, a gentle nudge, or a recurring dream. The modern world teaches us to ignore these feelings. We are told to rely on logic, on plans, on what can be proven. But I have learned that the greatest truths are often felt, not proven. This journey was my ultimate lesson in that truth. It was a reminder that there is a wisdom within each of us that is far older and deeper than our rational minds. It's a wisdom that connects us all. So, I ask you to settle in and open your mind. Let go of any preconceived notions and just be present with this story. Allow yourself to feel the curiosity and the mystery as it unfolds. This isn't just my story. It's an invitation for you to reflect on the calls you may have felt in your own life. It's a reminder that we are all on a journey, guided by something greater than ourselves. Let's begin this journey of intuition together. Let's explore what happens when we dare to follow the signs. It all started quietly, the way most important things do. It began not as a clear decision, but as a whisper in my sleep. For weeks, I had the same recurring dream. It wasn't a nightmare, nor was it a particularly pleasant dream. It was just There. In the dream, I was always standing on a cobblestone street, looking up at a sky that was a shade of blue I had never seen before. The air felt warm and smelled of salt like jasmine blooming in the evening. There was a gentle breeze, distant bells ringing, and the soft murmur of a language I didn't recognize, yet somehow understood. The details were always the same: the uneven stones under my feet, whitewashed walls around me, draped in vibrant pink bougainvillea, water lapping against a shore just out of sight. In these dreams, I always felt a profound sense of peace, a feeling of being home, in a place I couldn't name. I would wake up with that peace clinging to me, a stark contrast to my busy everyday life. At first, I dismissed it as a strange dream, my mind piecing together images from movies or books, but the dream was persistent. Night after night, I returned to the same cobblestone street. I started noticing more details: a pattern in an iron balcony railing, the way light hit a blue domed roof in the distance, the feeling of the sun on my skin. It became more vivid, more real than waking hours. During the day, my thoughts drifted back. In meetings, driving my car, the scent of salt and jasmine would fill my senses for a second. It was disorienting, unnerving. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was stress or imagination. I was busy. I had responsibilities. No time for daydreams about a place that probably didn't exist. I tried to ground myself in logic, focusing on to-do lists and schedule. But the more I pushed it away, the more it insisted on being seen. The dream became a constant, quiet companion in the back of my mind. No longer just a whisper. It started to feel like a call I found harder and harder to ignore. The signs began to bleed from my dream world into my waking life. It started with small things, little synchronicities. I'd be flipping through a magazine, a photo of a whitewashed village by the sea would catch my eye. I'd be listening to a random radio station, a song about a Greek island started playing. Someone mentioned a trip to the Mediterranean, describing the exact scene from my dreams. Each instance felt like a little wink from the universe, a gentle nudge toward the vision. At first, I laughed it off. Coincidence. The human brain sees patterns everywhere. If you think about blue cars, you see blue cars. I was dreaming about a place, so I noticed reminders of it. But the coincidences kept increasing. They stopped being things I found and started finding me. It felt like the world was conspiring to point me one way. The feeling grew, an undeniable pull, a magnetic force drawing my attention, my energy, my very thoughts toward that unknown place. The more I resisted, the stronger it became. Ignoring it felt like holding a beach ball underwater. It kept popping up with more force, demanding my attention. The dream's peace turned into waking restlessness. My soul seemed to know where to be, impatient with my mind. The internal struggle was exhausting. Logic versus intuition. War inside me. Logic? This is crazy. You can't uproot your life. Intuition. This is important. You have to go. The whisper became a constant push, a deep knowing, a choice, resist or surrender. The resistance hurt more than the fear of the unknown. There came a moment when the pain of staying put became greater than the fear of leaving. I was sitting at my computer late one night, trying to work, but my mind was a million miles away on that sun-drenched cobblestone street. The chorus of doubts, both my own and those of others, was deafening. But underneath all that noise, there was still that quiet, steady whisper from my soul. Go. In that moment, I realized that I would regret not going far more than I could ever regret going and being wrong. The risk of disappointment was nothing compared to the risk of living with the what if. It was a surrender. I finally stopped fighting the current. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and let the feeling of the vision fill me completely. The peace, the sense of belonging, the quiet certainty. It was more real than any of the fears my logical mind could conjure. I opened my eyes and knew what I had to do. It wasn't a decision born of logic or careful planning. It was a leap of faith. It was an act of profound trust in my own inner guidance system, a system I had ignored for far too long. I was choosing to honor the call. With my heart pounding in my chest, a mix of terror and exhilarating freedom, I opened a travel website. I didn't have a specific destination, just the images from my dream. I typed whitewashed villages, blue domes, Greek islands into the search bar. An image popped up on the screen that made me gasp. It was a photo of a village called Oya, on the island of Santorini. The cobblestone streets, the bougainvillea, the blue-domed churches against the impossible blue of the Aegean Sea. It wasn't just similar to my dream, it was the place. I felt a wave of recognition so powerful, it brought tears to my eyes. Without a second thought, without checking my calendar or my bank account one more time, I booked the trip. I found a one-way ticket for 3 weeks out. As soon as I clicked the confirmation button, a profound sense of calm washed over me. The war in my mind went silent. The doubts vanished. All that remained was a quiet, joyful peace. It felt as if a key had finally turned in a lock I didn't even know I was carrying. I didn't have a plan for what I would do when I got there. I didn't have a place to stay. All I had was a one-way ticket and an unshakable feeling that I was finally heading home. The plane descended through a blanket of clouds, and then, there it was. The Aegean Sea. It was a shade of blue so deep and vibrant it didn't seem real. It was the exact color from my dreams. My heart began to beat faster. I wasn't filled with the usual excitement of arriving in a new country. Instead, a strange and powerful sense of calm settled over me. It didn't feel like I was arriving somewhere new. It felt like I was returning. Stepping off the plane, the air hit me. It was warm, dry, and carried a distinct scent on the breeze. Salt from the sea, sun-baked earth, something faintly floral and sweet. I breathed it in, and a jolt of recognition shot through me. This was the air from my vision. In a taxi from the airport, I watched the landscape unfold. Rugged, dramatic cliffs, stark white buildings clinging to edges, a brilliant blue sky overhead. Every curve in the road felt familiar. Every vista seemed like a picture in the private gallery of my mind. The taxi dropped me at the entrance to Oya, the village from the photograph, the village from my dreams. I stood there, a single bag at my feet, and just looked. My first step onto the cobblestone path, I had to stop and steady myself. It didn't feel new. It felt remembered. I was walking into my own memory. I began to walk, letting my feet guide me without any specific direction. The sun warmed my skin, a gentle, welcoming heat. The light here was different, a soft, golden glow. I wandered deeper. The sensory details grew stronger. I passed a small courtyard, an elderly woman sweeping her doorstep, the soft shush-shush of her broom. I heard the distant chime of church bells, the exact sound I had heard in my sleep. I turned a corner, and the scent hit me like a tidal wave, jasmine blooming in the late afternoon heat. It was the scent of home. I stopped and closed my eyes, breathing it in, salt, sun, jasmine, the perfume of my dreams, so tangible I reached for it. In that moment, doubt dissolved. The proof wasn't logical. It was visceral. It was in the air I was breathing, the sounds I was hearing, the light I was seeing. My body knew it had been here before. This slow, meandering walk was not a tour. It was confirmation. Every little detail fit like a puzzle piece. These were echoes of a dream, small signs from the universe. I wasn't chasing magic. I was simply walking alongside it. The sun began its slow descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange, pink, and gold. The village became transcendent. I found myself drawn down a particular path, one that felt more familiar than the rest. It was quieter here, away from the main thoroughfares where people were gathering to watch the famous sunset. It was a narrow walkway that hugged the cliff's edge, with a low stone wall on one side and a row of simple, traditional houses on the other. My heart started to pound with a sense of anticipation. I walked slowly, my hand trailing along the top of the cool stone wall. The stones were smooth, worn down by time and countless other hands. I could hear the gentle lapping of the waves in the caldera far below. The air was still and peaceful. I looked up at the buildings beside me, at their simple wooden doors painted in shades of blue and green. And then I saw it. Halfway down the path, there was a balcony, an iron balcony with a distinct, swirling pattern in its railing. It was the exact pattern I had traced with my eyes so many times in my dream. I stopped, my breath catching in my throat. This was it. This was the street. This was the exact spot. I stood there, rooted to the ground, as a wave of emotion so powerful washed over me that my knees felt weak. It was a mixture of disbelief, relief, and a profound sense of coming home. I felt tears welling in my eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming gratitude and awe. To see this place, which had existed only in my mind's eye for so long, standing right in front of me in solid, tangible reality, was beyond anything I could have prepared for. It was the moment where the dream and the world converged. I stayed there for a long time, just looking. The echoes of my vision were no longer faint whispers. They were shouting. Every detail was correct. The uneven cobblestones beneath my feet, the distant sound of the bells, the scent of the sea, and this specific, intricate balcony railing. It was all real. The subtle signs had been leading me here, to this exact spot, and I had the overwhelming feeling that this was not the end of the journey, but the true beginning. Something was about to happen. Something was about to happen. As I stood there, frozen on that quiet path, bathed in the soft twilight, a light flickered on in the house with the iron balcony. A warm, gentle glow spilled out from a window, illuminating the space behind the intricate railing. My heart, which I thought couldn't possibly beat any faster, found a new frantic rhythm. I was no longer just an observer of a familiar scene. I was a participant. The scene was coming to life. A moment later, a figure emerged from the doorway and stepped onto the balcony. It was an elderly woman, her hair a cascade of silver pulled back from her face. She moved with a slow, deliberate grace, carrying a small watering can. She didn't seem to notice me at first. She was completely absorbed in her evening ritual, tending to the pots of jasmine and basil that lined her balcony railing. The scent of the freshly watered jasmine intensified, filling the air around me. It was the scent from my dream, but now it had a source, a reason. It belonged to her. Watching her, I felt an inexplicable connection, a pull toward this stranger that defied all logic. It was as if I knew her, as if I had watched her perform this simple, beautiful task 1,000 times before. The line between my dream world and my waking reality was completely dissolving. She finished with her plants and straightened up, her gaze drifting out toward the sea, now a deep, inky blue. Then her eyes moved and found me, standing alone on the path below. I expected her to be startled, or perhaps annoyed, at finding a stranger staring at her home, but there was no surprise in her expression. Instead, her face softened into a gentle, knowing smile. It was a smile that held a universe of warmth and welcome. It was a smile that said, "There you are. I've been waiting." It was in that moment, under her calm and loving gaze, that the unreal became real. Soft Greek, untranslated. This was the encounter my soul had been preparing me for. She raised a hand, not in a wave, but in a quiet, simple gesture of invitation. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft, yet it carried clearly in the still evening air. She spoke in Greek, a language I had never studied, a language I did not understand with my mind. But her words bypassed my ears and went straight to my heart. I didn't know the translation, but I understood the meaning perfectly. She was welcoming me. She was telling me I had finally come home. The goosebumps that rose on my arms were a physical confirmation of a spiritual truth. This trip was never random. It was a sacred appointment. It all felt inevitable. I felt my feet moving before my mind had even processed the decision to walk forward. I was drawn toward her, toward the small wooden gate at the side of her house. She met me there, her eyes dark and kind, crinkling as she smiled. She said something more, her tone gentle and reassuring, and gestured for me to come inside. There was no fear, no hesitation. Stepping into her home felt like the most natural thing in the world. The inside was simple, filled with the scent of herbs and old wood. A small kitchen led to a cozy living area. Handmade tapestries hung on the walls. Worn books were stacked on a low table. She led me to a small table set for two, a pot of tea steaming between two mismatched cups. It was as if she had been expecting company. We sat in comfortable silence as she poured the tea, a fragrant brew of mountain herbs. Then she began to speak, her voice a soothing melody. She spoke in Greek, and I listened, my mind completely quiet. And the most miraculous thing happened. I began to understand, not in a literal word-for-word translation, but through a deeper channel of communication. It was as if her stories, her emotions, her memories were being transmitted directly into my soul. She told me about her family. She pointed to faded black and white photographs on the wall of people who lived in this house for generations. She spoke of her grandmother, a woman known for her deep intuition, her knowing of things. She described how her grandmother would often dream of visitors before they arrived, preparing a meal, preparing a cup of tea, for a guest whose knock was still hours or even days away. As she spoke, she would look at me with that same knowing expression, as if she was seeing her grandmother's legacy alive and well, sitting across from her. The most unbelievable part came when she pulled out a small, leather-bound journal. It was her grandmother's. She opened it to a page near the end, paper yellowed with age, ink faded to a soft brown. The entry was dated nearly a century ago. She traced the elegant, looping script with her finger as she explained its meaning. Her grandmother had written about a recurring dream, a dream of a descendant she would never meet, a soul from her own bloodline, who would one day travel across the ocean, guided not by a map, but by the memory in their heart, to find their way back to this very house. As she finished reading the passage from the journal, she looked up at me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. My own tears were already streaming down my face. The story wasn't just a story, it was my story. It was the other half of my own experience, an explanation my logical mind could never have conceived of. The pull I had felt, the vision that had haunted me, it wasn't just my imagination. It was an echo across time. It was a spiritual inheritance, a call from my own ancestry, a thread of connection that had remained unbroken through generations, across continents. My great-grandmother, a woman I never knew existed, had dreamt of me. In that moment, something inside me shifted, a profound internal realignment, like a compass needle finally finding its true north. The feeling of being slightly out of place in the world simply vanished. I finally understood the feeling of peace in my dreams, the sense of being home. It was because I was. This little house, this cobblestone street, this island, part of my history, my DNA. I wasn't chasing vague spiritual magic. I had found tangible meaning. I had found my roots. My reaction wasn't shock or disbelief. It was profound, soul-deep recognition. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. I felt a wave of gratitude so immense it was humbling. Gratitude for my ancestor, for this kind woman who had received the call, and for my own intuition, finally trusted. I looked around the room, tapestries, photographs, worn furniture, and saw it all with new eyes. This wasn't just a house, it was a sanctuary. It was my sanctuary. I spent the evening with her, my distant relative, my spiritual guide. We didn't need a common language. We communicated through shared tears, laughter, and a profound understanding that transcended words. The trip was no longer about a vision coming true. It was about discovering a truth that had been waiting my entire life. I hadn't just visited a place. I had reconnected with a missing part of myself. I wasn't chasing a fleeting moment of magic. I was standing in the center of a deep, enduring meaning that changed who I was. This journey taught me one of the most profound lessons of my life. Our intuition is the most honest and reliable compass we will ever own. For so long, I was taught to navigate the world with maps, with plans, with logic. I believed the only journeys worth taking were the well-researched and meticulously organized. But this experience showed me another way to travel, another way to live. It's a path guided not by what we think, but by what we feel. It's about learning to listen to the quiet, persistent whisper of our own soul, which always knows the way. I learned that these inner callings are not random whims or flights of fancy. They are sacred invitations. They are opportunities for spiritual alignment. Moments when the universe conspires to lead us exactly where we need to be for our own growth and healing. Some journeys call to us for a reason that our minds cannot yet comprehend. They call to us to reconnect with forgotten parts of ourselves, to heal ancestral lines, or to step into a destiny that has been waiting patiently for us. This trip to Santorini wasn't just a vacation. It was a pilgrimage to the core of my own being, guided by a force far older and wiser than myself. Not every journey begins with a map that is printed on paper. Sometimes the map is etched upon our hearts. It's written in the language of dreams, synchronicities, and unexplainable feelings of familiarity. Trusting this inner map requires immense courage. It requires us to let go of the need for certainty and to embrace the mystery. It asks us to have faith in the unseen and to believe that we are being guided, even when we don't know the final destination. This journey taught me that the reward for such faith is not just a beautiful view, but a deeper understanding of our place in the world. The greatest lesson was that I wasn't chasing magic, I was finding meaning. The magic was simply the language the universe used to get my attention. The real treasure was the profound sense of connection and belonging that I discovered. It was the realization that I am part of a story much larger than my own individual life, a story that stretches back through time. Listening to my intuition didn't just lead me to a beautiful island in the Aegean Sea. It led me back to a fundamental truth about who I am and where I come from, a truth that has grounded me in a way I never thought possible. As I reflect on this incredible journey, I realize how much it has changed my perspective on everything. Before, I saw the world as a collection of places to visit, a checklist of destinations to see. Now I see it as a living, breathing entity that communicates with us, that calls to us, that offers us exactly what we need, right when we need it. Travel is no longer about escaping my life. It is about stepping more fully into it. It's about paying attention to the signs, listening to the whispers, and being brave enough to answer the call when it comes. The world is full of these invitations, if we only have the ears to hear them. The question I am left with, and the one I want to leave with you, is a simple one. Have you ever felt called somewhere? Has a place ever entered your dreams or your daydreams with a strange and persistent familiarity? Have you ever felt a magnetic pull toward a destination that you couldn't logically explain? It might be a whisper you've been ignoring for years, or a feeling you've dismissed as silly or impractical. I am here to tell you that it is neither. It is a sacred message, a personal invitation from your soul. Think about that call. Did you ignore it, or did you follow it? There is no judgment in either answer. Our lives are busy, and the world teaches us to be practical. But I encourage you to reflect on what might happen if you chose to listen. What if you allowed yourself to believe, just for a moment, that this pull is real and it is for you? What if the journey you are most meant to take is not one you would ever think to plan for yourself? I would be so honored if you would share your own stories of being called in the comments below. Your story may be the sign that someone else has been waiting for. In the end, this journey gave me the most incredible gift. I didn't just visit a place. I aligned with myself. The peace I felt on that cobblestone street was the peace of my own soul finally being heard. The sense of belonging was the feeling of my own history clicking into place. The entire experience was a powerful reminder that the longest and most important journey we will ever take is the journey back to our own true north. And sometimes it takes traveling across the world to finally find your way home. If this story resonated with you, you're not here by accident.